Welcome back, and welcome to Mortgage Mythbusters, episode 2. So last week we touched on myth busting. We could call it a pilot, but it was certainly our first one. We've changed the setup physically in the office. We've had a good shuffle about. Pretty much spent all of yesterday just a bit of feng shui on the old furniture. And we got it into a position where we can just concentrate on the audio rather than to be too clever and worry about the video like Stephen Bartlett does. But we've listened to Stephen Bartlett from the start and he was under his stairs. It was echoey, so give us a break, maybe. So last week we talked about technology as the first of our myth busting segments.
Yeah, we didn't know we were doing myth busting, but that's the way we're going with it now, and we're branded up. So I'm going to start with a myth buster. Myth would be you wouldn't want to share the technology that we've created together with other people because it might give them an unfair advantage. That's the myth, so you've got to bust it.
Is that the myth? Right. So that's a very honest myth. It's probably true. Because who wouldn't want to grab the whole of the market? The likelihood is that we've got 0.1% of the market. And if we get 0.2%, that's huge. So why let the others struggle or not see what we're doing? I think the myth, if we can get cryptic on it, the myth was last week that the mortgage industry is all about briefcases and paper. And it's not now. It's about using all the technology available. It's using AI, it's using smart tech, and it's using the resources you have available to make your job easier.
But not many people are doing it as of yet.
Well,
it's not many processes.
Do you know what? Do you know what the new breed are? The younger guys that are coming into it it's almost inbred in them that's how it should be done. They're not looking for shortcuts. They're looking for ways to work,
efficiencies.
Smarter. And that's where we are. I'm not saying that we've just grabbed onto it. It's something we've been building, and we've organically grown the company like that whilst reaching out when we feel that something out there is better than we are doing.
Searching for something that wasn't there, wasn't it? It was the main thing.
Yeah,
so it would be costly to
have a listen. Have a listen to the first one. It was quite interesting. It went on too long, an hour 40. We're going to try and cap this one at around about the 30-40 minute mark. And it's an honest insight into what we think works, and not only that, letting you into a bit of our trade secrets and what we have. So we appreciate your feedback. There will be a lag on these episodes, so sometimes we'll be talking and we should be thanking for all the comments that you've put on. But the reality is episode 1 hasn't been released yet. It's got to go through financial promotions. Episode 2, which we're recording now, it's all about kind of getting that approved. So there will be a bit of a lag. We may have even 5 episodes recorded before we get into the point of releasing our first. So it'll be strange. If we're not listening, it's not because we're not listening. It's because we haven't got to the stage of listening to that comment. So round about episode 6, we'll pick up from everything you picked on us and call this out for in episode 1.
And send in your myths.
Yeah,
get your myths.
Get your myths in. We've created the logo, so give us a bit of feedback on that. It was all Baz's idea, nothing to do with me. So if you want to rip him a new one, feel free. Today we have our first guest, who is the lovely Alice, who works for Packaging Solutions. It's quite apt to bring Alice in because she's a big part of behind the scenes in what we're doing on the social. She's the reason why we're getting TikTok. She's the reason that we'll be doing a lot more targeted but realistically branded advertising on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube. She's got a lot more knowledge in that market and that side of the industry than I have, certainly, and she works very well with Baz, so it just made sense to get this off to start and bring in Alice. So hello.
Hi. Yeah, that was a really nice intro there. He's clearly just trying to make me say nice things on the podcast, so that's great.
I felt like I was underplaying you, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fair enough.
Well, we work, for the last, and probably for the next 2 months, we're going to be working very closely in the vast amount of catalogue we need to build up on social media. Again, like I said, we have to get it approved. So Alice is doing a lot of work I wouldn't even say it's behind the scenes because
Yeah.
it's in face. We've all come in. We work from home today. We mix it about because some tasks are easier to get our heads down. But we've all come in the office to do this, and then we'll be back to our day jobs. Today's topic is going to be another Mythbuster. It'll always be a Mythbuster, hence the name. But we're going to be calling this one "Your Bank Can't Give You a Mortgage, So Nobody Can." Quite a common myth, actually, to the point where I see people 6 months down the line where they tell me that's why they didn't buy that property or move or do that thing that they wanted to do because the bank said no, and it stopped there. So let's bust that myth, and let's get it off to a start.
Yeah, I think that's quite an obvious one. Like, I think normally your first step would be to go to the bank you already bank with.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and then you almost think, like, if that person says no, well, every bank's the same, they're all going to say the same, that's just across the board, may as well give up until I've saved X amount of deposit or until I've paid off my credit card, and you kind of take
Well, they're
your
the
first no
experts
as
if
no.
you don't know any better. Like, before I started working with you, I didn't know all the in-depth sort of side of it and the options that are out there. So I would have concentrated on just calling my bank.
Yeah, same.
And for anything, it's like, I bet if I looked around for savings and investments and stuff like that, I'd probably get better deals. You know, and there's stuff out there, but I think it's making that leap and find it yourself.
Do you know what? This would be a really short episode because I went to my bank and they give me a mortgage and that's who I'm with. So job done. There we go. Tune in next week.
Won't be there.
So I've busted my own myth, but I've also proved it can be true. I don't think a mortgage advisor is there for everybody. I think a mortgage advisor is a tool, and it's something that should be in everyone's kind of like pencil case. It's like, let's get this out and have a chat with our mortgage advisor. Banks centrally, when you're looking at the high street, they're there. We know who they are. Your NatWests, your HSBC, your Santanders. Everyone treats a bank like they do their mobile phones. It's kind of like your Android or your Samsung. Some people will speak highly of NatWest. They don't want to move, but they hate it. They'd love to have an Apple phone, but they've got. They're just happy where they are. Some will hate the bank. Some will just be a bank whore and jump about the different banks and actually like move because Martin Lewis has said to. 100 quid here, there, and there to move it across. But the way I see it is, banks should be your number one. You know what I mean? Like, imagine how much does the bank know about you? Yeah. Your bank, if you bank with them, they see all the ins and outs. You could paint a picture of what you've done in these school holidays. The fact that today you decided to come in here and do a podcast instead of taking the kids to the park.
Nobody's judging you.
But then you'll see Baz is on a very high performance fee for these podcasts, so you'll see on his bank statements the income.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see how mine reflects it then.
I wish something get involved in it, to be honest. I do it for the love of it. So going on to that then, like, so you say that you've gone with your bank. Why? What's the benefit of coming to you? Is it because they've got their own products? They can only sell their own products. They can't outsource anything. When people come to you, can you look at like places that don't have sort of restrictions in effect? I know you mentioned on the last podcast you have things like if you've got certain coloured eyes, they'll give you a cheaper rate or something. You know, there's like
it's not too far off that. So
is that
like I would love it if everyone came to us regardless and they would talk about what they need and then look at their options. It doesn't mean to say that their bank won't be that best option. Okay, so if you're recently self-employed, you come to us and you say, I've only been self-employed for a year, I've been knocked back from my bank, Barclays, can I get a mortgage? They've said no. We can get them a mortgage, in theory, going off that one bit of criteria. But if they were with Halifax already, then they can get a mortgage with 1 year set of account. Does that mortgage mean they can buy that property? Can they get enough of that mortgage? Is the interest rate attractive? Do they have the right features? Do they have a 10-year fixed? Do they have a 3-year fixed? So for all they may be able to get a mortgage, it's the limitations that it might have. So yes, you can get a mortgage. So sadly, what we do is majority of the time it's I'm thinking about getting a mortgage. I don't know where to start, and that's the level. So they haven't even at that point thought about going to the bank.
Right.
Then we've got the guys who've gone to the bank and been knocked back, or not being able to get in for an appointment for 2 weeks. My answer is you get on the blower, you speak to us, you book in, and you have a chat. We will look at you from the outside and ask you the questions that everyone would possibly ask. So we're covering 100 questions, whereas a bank might ask you 10 leading questions, but actually each different bank has a different interpretation of that question about how you structured. So they'll ask that question. We've then got those 100 question points, which we call a fact find, and then we use that to be able to say, here's your options. It might be 1 or 2 or 3. And you know what? To have that chat is absolutely free. We do not charge you for that chat. We could then recommend your bank, and you think, right, well, I bank with them. Yeah. Why don't I go direct? You can.
Right.
And we're not going to charge you for that.
Right.
Off you go. Go to your bank.
Yeah.
But hopefully at that point, we'll have crossed so many different barriers and explained what we can offer as a service that you'd think, you know what, that's worth every single penny.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much what happened with me 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When I came to you, having worked with you, started working with you, and I was on a really good tracker rate, and the base rate was down. And you just basically looked through everything and said, we advise you just to stay as you are.
Yeah.
Do that for two years, we'll book you and come back.
But the good thing is, you call us, Alice. If Barry called and that was his, he's almost giving you an objection at the front, like, I've heard you good, but this is my story.
Yeah.
What would you do? What would you do?
I'd still book you in for a chat and just find out more about it. Like, I think the benefit of us is it's just a bespoke sort of service, isn't it? And you're just getting such a personal touch when we talk to you and it's good because it's honest. Like Paddy says, if he can't beat you, deal. He's not going to try. He's not going to try and put you on a worse deal. He's just going to say, just come back when you're ready.
See, that's the beauty of it. And I knew you were a good mate, and I was still really sceptical, wasn't I? Coming to you, I was thinking like, what if I go to him, and then I think, oh shit, it's better it's me bank.
And then you have to say to your mate, no thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But as a mate, like, I mean, you've got to give us your bank statements, and again, I'm going to see your life and everything.
That's fine.
So we just see it like the matrix and numbers and stuff. Like, why is Paddy paying you all this money? But we see it like the matrix. So we're just seeing you as an application that we need to make sure that it could fit all. And as we work through it, we start chopping off those branches, and then we end up hopefully with that bit that fits. So when it comes to speaking to us and how you would speak to your bank, I think that's the biggest difference. Now, I'm not saying you're holding back information, but the bank are going to ask you questions and you're going to answer them. We're going to encourage you to tell us your story. So it's, how are you doing? How can I help? It's not what's your name, number, and date of birth. Okay. Alice might start it off with that because guess what? You need that.
Yeah.
But when we're there, we'll talk about it. We'll be like, right, okay, have you any plans, any this and that? The bank will do the same. But the bank are the first ones to admit this. They're not mortgage advisors because they're not whole of market and independent and talking about everything you have available.
They're talking about their products.
They're talking about their products.
Right.
And bloody hell, they're good. Like, I'm with the Cumberland Builder Society, I don't mind saying it. And their mortgage team are so knowledgeable about their products, they won't waste your time either.
Yeah.
And I hope that they would say, look, we can't help you, but you will be able to get sorted somewhere else. Just you don't just fit. You're not our type of eye colour. You're not able to help. So I think what we do is we break down those barriers, hopefully, and you're able to tell us absolutely everything. What you may not want to tell us that, I don't know. For example, I'm pregnant. Yeah, I am.
Wow. Didn't know this is how he'd break it to us.
Hev will be chuffed a bit. So I'm pregnant. And I'm buying a house. We've already put our house up for sale. We've had an offer and we've found the first dream home. We've even put a deposit down on it, £100 reservation fee, because we're buying a nice new Willen home. Apologies if you charge more of a reservation fee than that. There'll be terms and conditions at the end of the podcast. But yeah, so it'll be one of those where you would tell us, you would tell your bank, of course you should tell them absolutely everything, but people, we're humans and we're on that fight and flight and we're thinking, right, okay, like, baby's not born, it's very early, I don't know if it's twins or quadruplets, and I don't know if I need 6 bedrooms. So at that point you may be feeling cagey. We'd say, look, tell us absolutely everything, because believers are not, like, having a baby doesn't really make a shed of difference. What matters is the real story behind the back end of it and what's going to go on, and do you know what's going to happen when you've had those quadruplets or not? And Baz has got twins. So
I've got twins, so I know exactly what
but you don't know, do you? Like,
you don't know what's around the corner, do you? But then, so that's what could happen and what your situation could be. But then you obviously have to delve into the bank details as well.
So, like, say, just going back on that scenario, so you're having a kid and you're going to go back to work after 9 months and you've signed your life away, you promised your employer that you're going to go back, that's all good. You might want to be running for the hills after 3 months.
Yeah.
You might want to take an extra year's leave to be a mum, dad.
Yeah.
And if that does happen, then obviously we've got to think about the risks. But there's so many different things like losing your job. So you're talking about 9 months' time. That what if the company's not there?
So that could happen to anyone, though, couldn't it? I suppose.
Yeah.
But you just try to look for these.
It's all about risk and how lenders accept. So your own bank might say, "I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do," or we can't take your income into account. Whereas the majority of the banks actually understand it and they would say, "Yeah, we will take that income into account."
But would you look into like savings and stuff as well then?
As long as you're going back to work. I mean, not necessarily. So you would look at the budget. You know that there's 9 month period where they're going to drop down to one income. All of that is factored in. Obviously, they're going to get statutory maternity pay at least. But the banks will build that in, and they'll have what they would call like a risk assessment approach. So they're going to be saying, right, okay, we want confirmation you're going back to work at the same time. But that's what you get. So you speak to us, and that property's not off the market for you. Like you can actually go ahead and move and think, you know what, I am going to go back to work the same hours, but I'm going to work from home after 9 months. We need that extra bedroom office space. We need that extra bedroom for nanny and granddad to come and stay and help out. And we want the garden. We don't want to miss out on this. So if the bank had said no, we want them to come to us.
Yeah,
you know. And worst case, we say we can't help you. I would always argue, and this is a myth I'm happy to put out there in the future, is we can always help you. It's just when.
Yeah.
So it might be, you're self-employed for 6 months. We can't help you for another 6 months.
Yeah.
So how does it work then? Say, I mean, obviously the way it is at the minute, people are living on the breadline. Say they come to you and they say something like that, I'm going to be pregnant, I'm going to be like on maternity, so pay is going to go down. Is it down to your personal, like do you have to almost like guarantor where if someone was there for you, if you were after a mortgage, do you go to the lenders and say, look, this is their situation, or do they?
Like that, yeah, we feel like that.
So do you have to make the decision, or is it always just down the lender? Like,
so I would say we do. I would say we do as a company. That's how we work. Because I've been an underwriter in the past, an underwriter, and I've had a mandate where if I'm signing it off on my head, be it to make that decision and make sure that creditworthiness they can.
Is that so? For me, an underwriter, is that at the lender itself, or is that?
Yeah, an underwriter is like the decision maker within the bank.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've been that. Now, when a customer comes to us, it's not about like, let's just make some money and get them a mortgage and then make sure that they're in. The things we can't control are having twins when you've just bought your first home and you're planning on starting a family.
Or illness or...
Illness, things like that. But what we can do is say, look, this is what you can afford. We're looking at your income and your outgoings and this is reasonable. The banks do a lot of work with us on that because they've got caps. They won't lend above a certain amount. They all have the multiples. We take into account things like unsecured, the cost of living, bills, and with that they allow an ability to be able to pay per month a certain amount for a mortgage.
And is that some kind of matrix thing that then, or is that done personally? Like you said, you're an underwriter, is that?
To answer your question simply, so you understand the way we would assess it is like they're gonna pay rent anyway if they can't buy this property.
All right,
how much are they going to pay in rent? What's your budget? The difference between being a landlord and owning a property and renting it out to a tenant versus owning your property and being the owner is when things break, it's up to you. Okay. So you need something doing, windows, kitchen.
Yeah, so it's all extras.
So you've just got to think about that. So I'd say that we take a very much an approach of would I lend this person my money? And when we dig our teeth in to fight a corner, because not all the times, we've had one recently, yesterday, got overturned. There was a disagreement on affordability. And we stuck our teeth in and said, look, no, you're wrong. This person can afford it, and we back them to the hilt. Here's the evidence, and here's our story, and they went with us. And Charlotte won't mind us saying, Charlotte's one of my mortgage advisors, she's going on holiday tomorrow. And we spoke late last night, and that made her day, because it was one case she was carrying through that wasn't quite resolved. We call it firefighting.
So then you don't have to.
She hadn't put the fire out. She'd sorted it, and that was through us being passionate enough, because it will come back and bite us in the arse if they.
I was going to say, how does that affect you? So if they if they struggle to pay, and then how does that affect you?
I could if I put the defensive hat on, I could argue that we wouldn't have got them the mortgage in the first place if they weren't in the position at that day to pay. But if we turn a blind eye to, let's say, I'm pregnant with twins again. I'm doing well today.
You're not.
But so I'm having that. But like let's say we didn't disclose that, or the person said to us, "But I'm not going to go back to work. But I'm going to tell my employer that I am." Then simply we're just going to not be able to use that income. Because that's just nuts, and we'll be party to not only the fraud that would be taking place. Not necessarily to the customer. The customer's probably not made the decision of yet, but we would have to be responsible and say, look, without your income, this is the maximum you should be able to afford. We've also got to look at what would happen if interest rates rise.
I was about to say, so with that, say someone's close to the line in effect, like so you think they could afford it. Banks are kind of on the fence. The lender, is on the fence as to whether they can. So like you said, you had to fight their corner. If they were looking at, say, a tracker, which could then suddenly shoot up, would you then push them towards a fixed rate kind of, do you know what I mean? Would you kind of look further in the future for them as to things that could make their mortgage go up? And do you know what I mean? Like, so if
absolutely
close to being able to afford it.
Sometimes you can get carried away.
Yeah.
Like when you talk about retirement and you're talking 30 years down the line, we know we're going to have another 2, 3, 4 more chats at the milestones of remortgages, which is a big part of our business, and things will change, and they always do. So I don't think it's one of those where we need to get too carried away about the long distance future. Right, okay. But we just have to be.
But you would probably go through that, like, so someone like me who's a bit numb to it comes in, you're going to tell me the difference between a tracker and a fixed rate, and you're going to explain to them there's a chance that could go down, obviously, but there's a massive chance that could go up your monthly payments.
Like, so a big part of it is what you don't see. So I'm bigging myself up as the advisor, and what you don't see is what Alison's job is to manage that middle ground.
Right.
So before someone's got to the position, Alice is looking after the traffic.
Go on then, Alice. So you tell us how. So what's that? So the way I understand it is, I come to you. You book me in for an appointment.
Yep.
I then go and see Paddy.
Sure.
Probably not Paddy. Probably one of his advisors. Paddy's busy, so I go and see one of his advisors.
Paddy, if you're lucky.
So then,
I'm pregnant.
After Paddy's pregnant,
with twins.
He's off. He's not come back to work. So then, does that? They tell me the basics of it.
Yeah.
But then, does it come to you to do the fact finding side of it, or is that the advisor?
I think pretty much I will have done the basics of the fact find, and then the advisor goes into and then the advisor goes into all the detail of all your requirements and things, and they'll do all of the sort of thing that Paddy was just saying.
And would that be so? When I meet you, do I have to bring bank statements? Do I have to bring?
Yeah, but what do you do? What, like, when you go to a bank, what's your bank do? You ring your bank. What's the first bit they do when you're chatting to them?
Security kind of thing, do you mean? Or?
Yeah, and disclaimers. So that's where Alice jumps in. So she'll send out kind of our help guides, our terms of business, the
nicely designed.
You know what?
Guides.
Very well designed. To be honest, it's the shit that people don't read. Okay, so we'll be giving them it, and I say that because I don't read it. It's where it's like terms and conditions, 50 pages or whatever. You wouldn't read it because you just want something and you're going to wait until you can get it. Yeah. What Alice will do is kind of make sure they've got that, book them in for the appointment, and then pass them off to the advisor. The advisor will then go through those documents that maybe they haven't had time to read because they want the answer. So when you speak to your bank, you've had it before, have you not? Like, what do they do? Like, they'll have a recording or they'll
it's the same as when you do like mobile phone contract.
And it's just the world we live in. Do you know what I mean? Like, so the daft thing is the really important stuff they put in there. People will always. I mean, I'll argue this till I'm grey in the face. They'll blank that out. They won't pay attention to everything they're saying because they're too keen on what kitchen they're going to be putting in this new property.
Yeah, and they're just focused on the end result, aren't they? Really.
But kind of with me, that the time that does hit home is when you're about to sign it up. At the end, I think then I would probably go back and read those and think, this is what I say.
So with the bank, I see it as a transaction. So me against the banks here. They do that bit and it's done. and then they'll go through the fact finding. They'll tell you what you can and can't have, and then you choose your product. And then the application will go. You'll get your mortgage offer, and off you go. What you get here with Alice, with Laura, and with Adam and Bobby, and Joe, who aren't the mortgage advisors, you get that support at every single step of the way. So Alice will be there to make sure that when you've got that one daft question, it comes via email, and if she can answer it, she'll answer it. If not, it goes to the advisor. Yeah. We'll probably throw it into a podcast or an FAQ on the website.
I was going to say, exactly. FAQs now.
So we're at that point where we've got someone help. Then when it gets to the point of, I found that property, what do I need? And you said bank statements. That's where it's back over to Alice.
Yeah.
And so, like, anecdotal kind of thing. What about, we've mentioned this ages ago, about, so you're looking at someone's bank statements, right? Which is, that's obviously, you've got to do that. What kind of things, you're obviously looking at incomings and outgoings. There's things that you can't predict, obviously.
Yeah.
If someone's getting a kitchen done, or if someone's getting like I don't know, redoing the garden or so, buying a new car. So you've got that. What about the daft things? Like if I'm transferring money from my mate, we're going to stag do, and I put something there like, I don't know, protection racket or drug money or something like that. Do you get daft things like that?
Exactly, sure, Mackham.
Yeah.
It's actually what he's paying for.
So is that, so like what, like do you look in depth at everything?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, is that something?
Yeah. Do you know what? It's a one for another day. I could talk for hours about it. I could do videos and everything on it. There's so much out there. Yeah. I mean, what I would say is, like, unless you're actually doing those things, it doesn't really matter. I think a bit of sense of humour is good. And you know what, Laura, who. So when
but you will see that then. You will see that.
Yeah. I mean, so Alice.
We do that all the time. Me and David. It's
but you do, don't you?
It's
like,
so Alice will request the documents. They'll come in, then we'll go off to Laura, and Laura will hold your hand to getting the keys, pretty much.
Yeah.
So Laura gets to see that, and she'll testify to say it's probably the best part of the job in terms of like having a laugh. At the bits and bobs.
It takes a little bit.
So if an underwriter was to if we get to a stage where a mortgage gets knocked back because it says sex money on a bank statement, then you know what, I'm hanging up my boots because that's ridiculous.
So what my main point was, you look at them, but then obviously the lender's got to look at them as well.
Not always.
No.
Sometimes they don't, because they know that the compliance and the process is so tight that we've got to upload them to our systems.
All right. And so the majority of the time, if you say you're getting it pretty much.
We'll spot something on it back. So gambling, like not every lender would be happy with even £10 a month. Some will be content with a reasonable amount. Some won't care if you're winning. Some won't care if it's just a one-off. So we've just got to look at everything that would say, okay, this person. I mean, expensive hobbies. If you're spending like, I don't know, £400 a month on your band, and gigs and venues, you know what I mean. You want to be. It's one of those fish, you know, fish tanks and fish like that can be expensive. We'll build all that into your lifestyle,
right?
But I wouldn't really worry. But what's more important is, like, I think, I'm not saying banks aren't human, but you can't just ring them up for a bit of venting and stress. No, and a big part of our job is therapy, especially at the moment. What do you mean it's going to be this much per month because the interest rate's gone up? Yeah. And it's like, I'm sorry, but we can agree and vent about it. With a bank, I'd feel like you'd be restricted.
Yeah.
The thing I found is, like going to the bank last time was, it used to be that I could just go in and like this, come and have a chat.
Yeah.
But last time I contacted my bank when it was up, I had to get in a queue for months for them to get back to me. And when they did, I was talking to someone who didn't know anything about my situation. They were looking at my bank and stuff like that, and all my stuff while I'm on the phone. And then at the end of it, we didn't really resolve anything. They basically said, these are the products we have, which I could have just seen on the website.
Which amazing.
So there was nothing like, and not just that you didn't feel like you got a personal touch with it, but it was like, I was none the wiser.
Yeah, it didn't actually benefit you to have that chat.
The bigger banks you won't get it because they've got so many different call centres around the country that you don't know who you're going to be getting in, and your notes on the system, and they haven't got time to be reading through the story. So like going back to our first podcast about our system, it gives us that touch. Listening to a voice clip of me talking 4 years ago about the first time I spoke to the customer is powerful. Yeah. You don't do that. That person hasn't spoken to you before, so you're not going to listen to whoever spoke to them first and listen to that call. You haven't got time, whereas we do. So as part of Alice's prep for, you've got an appointment, and it's Barry coming back because he's now having quadruplets with Paddy.
Lovely.
and
It's getting
he needs
complicated.
it. We can go back to the beginning and look at everything. And when I get that fact find, like Alice said, she part completes it. A lot of that is done without you.
Yeah.
No one.
See, that's the beauty of it. I was on the phone for an hour, say 45 minutes was going through history and security and all that kind of stuff, and then 10 minutes maybe going through the.
But you can't then ring them back and ask them a quick question because
No.
you'll speak to someone new and explain your circumstances.
Yeah, exactly.
Like what we do is, and Alice and then the team will attest. My phone rings. It's on flight mode now, but my phone will ring. I'll not answer that call. I can't answer every call that comes through there. It is like a switchboard. I'll screenshot that missed call from an unknown number, and I'll put it into our group, and someone will be on that within a minute. Yeah, and we'll call them back. If that's Barry ringing again, and you've rang 3 times in a row, we'll put it in the group. We'll slag you off a little bit, and then we'll bring you back.
But then that's the beauty of it. For me, sometimes in that situation, I would have wanted someone just to touch base with us and say, yeah, we've got it. We know what you're after. We'll see you, even if it is a couple.
And there's no options. You don't press an option and get through.
Yeah, right. It's good.
Yeah.
Very good.
So like this morning.
Yeah.
Go on.
This morning. So obviously, like Paddy's saying, he just fires off these text messages.
Right. Yeah, voice notes.
Yeah, there's no real details, just a random number that you have to call. So I thought, get straight on that. It'd come in, and like he says, within a minute, I'm ringing it back. Just a guy had been locked out of his flat and wanted me to replace the keys to his flat.
Is that another service?
So, yeah, well, this is what I was thinking. I was like, I'm sorry, it's not something we offer here. And then I was thinking, actually, has Paddy signed us up to something else?
Yeah,
but
sure,
like he says, either way, we're ringing them back.
You're going to try it,
Yeah, we're going to try. I mean, I'm not going to replace his keys to his flat.
Well, sometimes it is just the Amazon guy.
Yeah.
Where I leave the parcel.
Yeah.
Because we respond to everything. Even the banks will ring me, or they'll ring. We've got my main number as the main kind of hotline for the company. That's how we kind of have to work. But if we don't do that, then we're going to ring somebody else. And
I don't think we've had a meeting without your phone going off 3 or 4 times.
Yeah. I put it on flight mode in the cinema. I put it on flight mode when I'm with the kids. I put it on flight mode, and then there's an anxiety turner back on because I want good news. But when you've got 3 missed calls, no one's rang you 3 times to give you good news. I've finally got my keys. In fact, no one tells us that throughout the week. We get paid, and then we're like, oh, congratulations.
They must have moved in.
Right, so Baz,
yes,
we're going to make this a bit of a feature where you're going to throw us a little...
It's my idea, this, wasn't it?
Yeah, this is your idea. I think you stole it off the Joe Marler show.
No, I didn't. Coming up with ideas. Right, so how can you do what the banks can't? Basically, how can you, as a lot smaller business than say NatWest, HSBC, how can you get better options on products than they can with all their backing? And
I'll answer this one just in case the regulator hangs us to dry. So sometimes we can't get any better. We can never get worse, but we can certainly see everything that you have available to you. So in some instances, we can get better. We will never be, what the common misconception or myth is that we make our money from you. If you go to Halifax and get a mortgage, it'll be X amount of rate, X amount of fees, and that's your mortgage. Okay? You come to us, you'll either get the same, and we get paid by the lender, a procuration fee, but that fee doesn't get eaten up into your fees and hidden away by Halifax.
Right.
Okay? Some instances, they'll offer broker incentives or network incentives, and the rate will actually be cheaper than you can get direct to yourself with your own bank. Yeah. So we can see everything. And Money Suit Market, I love it when someone says, I've been on Money Suit Market, I've got a better rate. It'll ask you about 3 questions.
Yeah.
There's 100 questions. And there's reasons why. Maybe in 3 years' time, you don't need to be with that bank or want to be. It might have a better rate, but it's going to cause you a headache when you want to move to Australia for that year. Things like that. You're in the military and you're thinking about going to Cyprus, Australia, Tampa Bay. We need to be thinking about everything. So our recommendation will be real. Whereas you tell that to the bank, then you're a bit stuck because if it's Santander in the military and they don't have the same, they don't have the same appreciation of the military, and I'm happy to say that because they haven't signed the military covenant to understand why should they're an international bank. In the military, NatWest would say if you get posted abroad during your mortgage contract, we will support you and we'll let you rent that property out. Okay.
Right.
So that's looking after the service personnel. And if we're in the service, whether they're just based at Walcott or Catterick and they think they're going to be there all their life, that's not the reality. So we've got to be prepared for that.
Yeah.
The banks themselves, they can't really do that because that's life advice. I know that because I've been in the services, but also through experience, that's what we've got. I don't give a shit what the rate is that you're going to be getting. It's the service and you being able to afford the monthly payments. It fits your budget and it fits everything you've came in for. I'll get you the best rate that fits you because that makes sense. But not always will that best rate be available to you, whether it's loan to value, deposit you've got, income, job, age, plans for retirement, number of children, debts, car finance, business setup. We will have to document the reason why. So it won't just be, you're getting this because I'm saying so. You'll get a full detailed explanation that you can take to your bank and say, Paddy can get me this mortgage. The bank will have a second attempt if they want, but they'll still come to the same conclusion. We'll have also detailed why the Cumberland couldn't give you a mortgage because it was a better option at a cheaper rate, but you couldn't get it because they didn't recognise overtime, as an example.
Right. Okay. That leads me on a bit you touched on there. What makes you sort of unique to any other mortgage brokers? I know you've got, basically everyone who's listened to this podcast probably knows bits about you anyway, but you were ex-military and you offer a fee-free service for the military.
I'll let Alice answer it. I'll throw the caveat in is the industry has changed. The cowboys have gone a long time ago, and it's a much better. And I will never say that because someone else is a mortgage advisor, got someone a deal, I can better it. Have we got a better setup system and service? I think we've got one of the best. Yeah. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. I'm genuinely surprised he's letting me answer this one as to why we're different. I just think it is like what Paddy's saying, super efficient at getting back to you as well. It's not a case of a long-winded process to get an answer. I'll be ringing you same day call within probably about 10 minutes of you actually calling.
So does that then knock on your workload though? So if you're busy, do you still does that take priority over everything?
Yeah, it does for me. Yeah. Getting you booked in to have that call because it's a really important call for you. Right. You're trying to remortgage. It's probably the biggest payment you've got going out monthly, and we're in a cost of living crisis. Of course, it takes priority right now. And that's how we view it. So we will make you priority and getting the calls booked in with Chris or Paddy or Charlotte.
Yeah. So do you manage the diaries as well? You would just look in there, find a spot, and then
pretty much. And if it was looking slightly full, I would still be able to just go and talk to them straight away and say, listen, I've got somebody who wants to talk to you at the end of the day. They finish work at 5:30. Can you make a slot? Chris and Charlotte are very likely to just say, yeah, of course, I'm supposed to finish at this time, but of course I can take the call. Everybody will bend over backwards.
Letting you have your time back or not?
Yeah, of course he is.
Good.
You wouldn't get a say.
Well, I know myself from I've done all the graphics for you for you'll advertise when you've got free appointments as well, like free slots, which is good. And for someone like me, if I'm on Facebook and I'm thinking about it in the back of my mind, I need to go and see. You know what it's like?
It cuts it out. If you see 5:30 appointment available and you're free, brilliant. You don't have to waste time thinking, are you? And getting your diary out. You know you're free at that time because it's the same day or the next day. Yeah. Normally they're cancelled appointments or slots that's being created because, I don't know, it was a quick chat or they need to rearrange. Or maybe that their research that they needed to do wasn't quite as extensive, so they've managed to...
Would you ever do something like that over Teams or Zoom or anything, or not? Or does it have to be in person?
I mean, it's like a bit like this podcast. Why do people want to sit and watch us when all they need to do is...
I just mean if you were struggling, I don't know, if there was some reason, or even if you were ill, but you wanted to still... you could still do it.
People can do it over telephone. Right. I mean, we use WhatsApp quite a lot for calls because of people not having good signal. But to me, WhatsApp, you can do a video call. You just don't need to stare at each other. If you want to, I'm happy to do it. But it is good in a face-to-face environment because you can gauge people's reactions and body language. But I think on a Zoom, you adapt a different body language because you're on that computer. You're fixed. Whereas when you sat in a room, you'll relax, you'll put your head back, you'll drink your brew.
So do you look at stuff like that? Do you look at body, to see... Are you looking for tics? You know what I mean? If people are lying to you.
Absolutely. Not lying, but so the interest rate's going to be this, and this is the monthly payment. Is that okay? When you see them swallow really in a gulp and then go white, then you're going to say, right, do we have any other options here? That might be extending the term out because they're going to have a pay rise in the next 4 or 5 years, so alleviate the pressure on the years coming up, as opposed to having a shorter mortgage just because they want to pay it off in that long term. So it's kind of making it sure that we're getting everything. People will, I think, talk to you just as much over the phone. I think they're more relaxed. So I think over the telephone works. We speak to them as often as one. Some companies will have like a two-stop approach or a one-stop appointment. We could speak to a client 10 times. We have a good relationship via WhatsApp. We'll do voice clips. We mentioned it in the last one.
So you could do all of that and then in the end still not get any payment.
Honestly, we've got customers. How long have we been going? 9 years. I've got customers that come to me every 2 years for their advice, see what they're comparing against their own mortgage or the bank that they took it out with, and just seeing if there's anything better out there.
And you're fine with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's them. It's them that refer to us.
Yeah.
And it's like, so Steve's passed on your details, and you think, Steve, yeah, we know him, but he's never been a customer. But he's so impressed that we've done that when someone is struggling and maybe can't get the mortgage from the bank. That's where we stand out. Go on, Baz, you can have one more question because we're pushing for time.
Right, remortgages.
Yeah.
If I'm already with my bank,
yeah,
would they be able to give me a better rate than what you know? Because in effect, I'm coming to you as a new customer, so you're taking me to, I don't know, say NatWest or someone that I'm not with.
Yeah.
Is the benefits financially for me for staying with your bank? Do they do anything sweetener-wise that you can't? Do you know what I mean?
So it depends on your bank. Okay, and we know who you're with, and therefore when we do our research, we've got to compare what they can offer you direct versus what's out there. And sometimes that's to encourage you to stay with your bank. You might be sick to. There might be your bank, your mortgage has been fine, but they've screwed you over somehow, or you think they have because I don't know, they shut the branch at 3 on a Wednesday now, and you that's the only time you can get to the bank to put your money in. But your mortgage is fine, so you may want to move away from them, but we'll actually say, well, actually, NatWest is the best option. Okay. But we'd compare the next best, so you can move if you want to. If nothing has changed, and you're with a bank and your mortgage is what it is, and all you're looking to do is get the best next fixed rate, because your fixed rate's coming to an end, sometimes it is the best advice to stay with them, even though the interest rate's not the... Okay. That could be for various number of reasons. It could be because your property needs valuing, and you're in the middle of, I don't know, you've ripped your kitchen out. You may be in a position where you haven't got time. You're about to go on holiday for a wedding or away for work. You haven't got time to collect those documents. Yeah. So taking a product transfer is a much simpler process, but you have to weigh up both options and then decide why. Right. If there's a better option to go elsewhere, you've got to take into account the time it will take for the application to be submitted and underwritten, property valued, and then a legal process to switch lenders. If you stay with the same lender, there's none of that.
All right. Okay.
Unless you're doing like a further advanced borrowing, or you're disputing the valuation, okay, or in arrears. If you're in arrears with your current bank, they're obviously not going to say, yeah, we'll give you another mortgage until it's cleared. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So there's loads going into it, but we'll explain that. Short answer is we wouldn't treat you any different.
Okay.
We'll still do the same. And would your bank get you a better rate to stay with them that they wouldn't disclose to us?
This is what I was thinking. So is there there'll be some banks that you can't get products with, is there? Some lenders.
Yeah, Cumberland. You can't. So I can recommend that the Cumberland would be your best choice.
But you can't go to those.
So but we can't recommend and liaise with them and submit the mortgage application for you to Cumberland.
So how do you know
deal with brokers?
So I take it, if it was me, I would go to Cumberland first. I'd get the price that they were going to give me.
If you bank with the Cumberland, every customer that's listening that banks with the Cumberland and lives in this area will testify that I will make you speak to the Cumberland as well as speak to us.
Right.
Because I can see what the rates are, but I don't know if they'll give you the mortgage. They're not like any other lender. When I went to them, it was blind. It was great because I had no idea. I couldn't go in the background, do my research and tell them their job and say, this is how much you're going to lend me. This is why. I had to just say, here's my stuff. Tell me.
Right, okay.
And
that makes sense.
But people should do the homework, but it's also the service they'll get. And I would say, unless the Cumberland was the only option, which we may try them as last resort, i.e. there is great deals here, we can help you all day long, but you're local and let's say you've been knocked back because there's an element of commercial attached to your property. You've got a barn which at the moment you rent out a bit of your field to your local farmer. Cumberland, Penrith Building Society, they don't mind that because that's quite common around here. So why wouldn't I tell you to go to them instead of saying brick wall, can't help you?
But to me, there's a bit of stigma attached to it. Like, if I was coming to you and you'd spent all that time looking at everything I do, and then I just think, I'll go myself and have a word with the Cumberland, and then I come back to you feel bad. It's almost like wasting your time. So that to me is something that, like, this is on like just a personal level, I think that should maybe be pushed in your advertising, that you're happy to do whatever you can to look into it, even if people don't come to you. Because for me, as a customer point of view, you do feel a bit bad coming back and saying, no, we're going to go with our first option. Do you know what I mean? I think I think that's a good selling point for me.
When a customer decides to stick with them, it's because we've probably demonstrated that it is the best option anyway.
Yeah.
And it's either send us a bunch of paperwork or stick with your bank. If you're already an existing customer, to keep you with your existing bank, we don't have to do a lot of paperwork. So it's not like we'll be asking for your bank statements, pay slips to keep you with your bank on a remortgage product transfer. Because it makes sense. We know you as the customer, we did your original mortgage, we know what you're on, and that is the best way. If we're going to another bank, we've got to go a full sales process, collect all the documents.
Right.
So when it comes to it, the be all and end all is that there's so many banks out there, so many lenders, specialist lenders, branches of lenders, different groups of lenders. We've got packages, master brokers. We can go out and try and find you a deal. Whereas you go to your bank and there's just one.
Right.
Yeah. But it doesn't mean that one isn't the best. But let's research, go to them, find out what they can do, find out what we can do, and decide who you want to go with. I like to think, and the banks won't mind us saying this because they love us. We might put you at NatWest won't care if we go to them because they know you're getting looked after. Yeah. And actually, they're probably going to get a better quality bespoke client that they want because we're given a certain customer. Like, you can speak to a customer and that's NatWest all over it. That's a nationwide. That's how, like, we know that. So we can direct it. And when they get it, it's a bit like that BS, my type on paper type thing. Like, they have a flavour of customer and we're giving them it because why wouldn't we? It's going to get them a mortgage at a very good and competitive rate and the customer's not going to be disappointed. But if you don't bank with NatWest, you wouldn't know that you're their type.
But that's all down to you and the personal approach and Alice spending the time
experience
talking to them.
Yeah. Experience. Do I want to go up against the bank and have a war and a good old scrap and say we're better than them? No, but I think I'm being transparent enough to say let us compare. But we'll hold our hands up and say if the bank's offering you a better rate. But it's not always about that. And I think the banks would agree. Otherwise, that's not how it would work. Some of the best banks, the most popular banks nationwide, biggest building society in the country, won't always be top of rates. It's about their service, what they can offer, the systems, their customer service. You could argue and swing it for a different customer that Santander is the best because of all those points. So every single person will have a different type person, a bank that they're better suited. And I think unless you speak to someone who has that overview, just look at everything.
It's like unbiased opinion in effect, isn't it?
It's like being on Match.com without clicking any filters. You know, you'd be able to.
This is how you got pregnant.
This is how I got pregnant.
Right? Can I just? So, are you happy that we've covered the myth there?
Yeah. So the myth is, just to repeat, that your bank can't get you a mortgage, so nobody can. That's the myth we need to bust, because too many people think the bank said no, my bank said no. They know me more than anybody. So what's a new bank going to say? If I'm with NatWest now and I'm banking with them and they say no, and they know my ins and outs, the new bank I approach is going to say, not a chance. That's so wrong. Come to us and let us explore that. There are people out there who will get offered mortgages with their bank almost day one, click of a finger. And sometimes that's more appealing, is just ease and loyalty. Get that one.
Well, the advice would be to still come to you, because it's not going to cost you.
It's not going to cost
you an appointment.
It's not going to cost you. It depends.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on what you. So I'm not going to say that like people shouldn't go to the bank and just trust what they're offering. The difference will be enough to worry about, enough to cover a bill. £10 a month covers your Netflix. You might save more than that, but it's the bespoke service you get. Also, the other things that we do, like the protection side of it and things like that. So it's a case of like, we do a bit of everything. We're looking after you for the 25, 30 years of your mortgage. not just for that fixed term, because we've got you a bit like insurances, we've got you and we're going to pass you on. We would like to think that we're looking at the long term, and your lender is just a part of the story along the way. It's us that you're dealing with to facilitate the mortgage and to advise and recommend it and make sure it's suitable for the lifetime. And by doing that, we'll know you. In 25 years, I'll know my customers just as well as anyone else knows them.
Good. Very good.
All good.
Yeah.
Next week's podcast, haven't a clue. We'll discuss timings. We'll make.
I think we should do a quick Q&A with Alice before we go.
No.
Go on then.
Right.
If it's anything
Quick fire questions. What's the best thing about working for PJS?
that I can swear every day and it's absolutely fine.
Brilliant. What's the worst thing about working for PJS?
That I have to swear every day about my job.
Where do you see yourself in 3 years' time?
Probably just doing most of the marketing. Like,
Right, okay.
I'm already doing the marketing, but I imagine that we'll need more help with that, and I'll just be managing that side of things. Yeah, I'd guess that.
Very good.
Without marketing now, because our client base is great. We've got over 1,000 customers that we are looking after who have taken out a mortgage with us that need us in the future. It's more like 1,500. That'll grow. It just does naturally. Without any advertising, it will just grow from word of mouth. But if we want to get out there and catch those 18 to 21-year-olds that are looking at the property market, we've got to change to mediums. Luckily, my kids will start being on things like TikTok and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Alice is young and she's playing on TikTok, but she's got.
So you're saying I'm old?
I'm not saying you're old. I'm not saying you're.
You know,
I'm not
that
saying
2
that you're
years'
sat.
time, fully retired.
Yeah, fully retired.
No, what I mean
Working
is,
for a company.
I apologize. What I mean is that you're not of the generation where you sat on TikTok, and that's not where you're getting your skills from.
It's finding those extra marketing tools, isn't it?
Yeah.
What we should say is that Alice is doing fantastic in her own separate kind of ventures and things like that. She
Which
does.
is?
Am I supposed to be plugging my own
Yeah,
business
go on.
now? It's Arian Equestrian, so it's British-made horse riding clothes.
What's the web address?
Arian Equestrian. I can't spell it out. ArianEquestrian.co.uk.
It's Arian, Arion, Equestrian.
Not going to spell
.co.uk?
equestrian, yeah, .co.uk.
And she's got 130,000 followers on Instagram. And that's not why we brought her in. I didn't know about that.
You found this out about a month ago.
I did find out about a month ago, but it's just to get to that, you've got to know how social media works. We're not trying to trick people in, because otherwise they'll buy the horse clothing. That's what it's called, horse clothing.
Yeah.
And it's they wouldn't just keep it because social media advert was good. It's got to be.
And what was she brought
in
in initially as? What's your job title?
Well, she's got a few roles. Everyone's got a few roles within the company, so it's like paraplanner, whether it be front of house, whether it's social media, marketing. Like I'd even say PA to me.
And is that intentional from you? Do you when you're interviewing, do you think, oh, it'd be good for this as well? So then it gives you.
Charlotte came in and she applied for the paraplanner position, and I gave her the job of a mortgage advisor.
Right.
Because I just saw it in her. She was fantastic. She qualified, and she deserved to be doing that already. So you can't until you get someone in, you don't know where they're going to fit.
But you've always said from day one that the advertising side, the marketing side is important. So now, obviously, you've got me that it's sort of
Baz the drummer.
Yeah.
Baz who drums, who has a big input in the technology side of our business. Yeah.
No, but you've got.
I only brought you in because I thought you were a good drummer and I wanted to learn the drums.
Yeah, well, you're wrong.
I only needed.
You're wrong. That was good on design.
I only needed a business card.
Yeah.
Right, Baz, that reminds me. Next week, I'm going to throw some quick fire questions at you.
That's good.
Alice, you can write them.
Oh,
Yeah,
there
sounds
we go.
good.
I was going to say, as long as he's not dragging me back in.
So one last question.
Yes.
What would you think would improve the business or your experience of working for the business?
I think for improving the business, it's just going to be probably the appointment booking system a little bit. And I think that's what we're working on at the moment a little bit. We've just started accepting appointments through Facebook because I think, like Paddy's saying, there's a younger generation who they might not just want to pick up a phone
I'm
call.
old, and I would, to be honest, if I saw that there was a way of booking an appointment through Facebook, if I'm scrolling through Facebook, I would probably
exactly.
go that way with it.
Yeah, so you're still going to get to chat to me eventually, but it just gives you that first part of call of saying, these are the times I'm free, and then it means you're not getting bothered through the day when you're at work or in the middle of a task. So we started doing that, and I think that'll be huge. But then I think things like the podcast, just getting to hear you two and your various pregnancies, just a little bit more of a personal touch is going to really help. As far as for me, being in the business, I'm just quite happy at the moment doing what I'm doing, and I have a lot of free reign.
Because you haven't been here long. I don't know if you've said that already. How long have you been here?
God, how long have I been here? About 4 or 5 months, not even...
That's not long, is it? To suddenly be like really having to push the market aside and all the changes that have happened in the last 5 months, economy-wise. And
you've got an estate agency background as well.
Yeah, exactly. And it's what I enjoy doing as well. So, like, obviously, Paddy interviewed me to be a paraplanner, but then we've sat and we've been talking about things that I do personally, and he's just seen that and run with it and said, right, well, that's your strength. Crack on. Yeah, so it's kind of, it's good management in a way. I'm actually being nice to you for once.
But without the, and I do a lot of that front end, but I need to be advising, so I can't wear two hats. And I come to a brick wall of, actually, I can't push this any further. I get the theory of it, but what do I do? And when you came in and you had that strength hidden within the paraplanner role, it just made sense to almost switch resources. But it then allowed me to take a back step from the marketing strategies and maybe designing them and then working with financial promotions to actually concentrate on going back to the business. And at the moment, I need to be looking at figures for the business every single day. And that allows me to do that. But we can't have business if we don't bring it in. So with what Alice is doing, we're bringing it in, which will then need a paraplanner. And there will become a point when all this content we're creating, it becomes on a cycle. So we're creating a new video today, we're creating a new podcast next week, and we've got a new army barracks to visit. So that will become a repetition. Once we've built the foundations, put them there, they don't need doing again. We just need to cycle it. So then that's when Alice will use and go back into the business and do other bits and bobs like the paraplanning, the front of house, the customer support, the back end. When you've had your mortgage 2 years later, you need your mortgage again, she'll be in touch with you. That keeps her within the within that cycle, within the conveyor belt. To be
having
able
that
to
versatility in it, really, I suppose.
But if she's not there on the front line with us, then how can she develop the marketing into something that's relative? So I think that's going to give her the strengths to be able to work with that. And also, it takes a lot away from the team because she can't, to do the marketing, she has to understand every little bit of the company. And she'll have to listen to these podcasts to get them approved. So she'll actually, by default,
picking everything up.
Because she's going to listen to those 90 seconds, 60 seconds, reading all the A to Zs, proofreading the A to Zs, putting them onto the website. All of that, she's accidentally doing a CPD, which is her personal development, isn't it?
Yeah.
See, for me, it's a big thing. Like with you, you are that busy, and if you're not able to respond, sometimes I've got an hour or 2 hours where I'm going to be working on a certain job for you. I need answers, or I need content. At least now I've got
you just
Alice who I can go to her and she like a lot quicker turnaround sometimes. Or she might interpret
I like how nicely you put that.
Or she might interpret something that like you would just send a voice note on about. But sometimes we will bounce voice notes backwards and forwards and I'll be saying like you're not getting it. You're not getting exactly what I mean here. But she's got a bit more of a technical background and you know, that kind of design side, which is quite good for me.
We get 2 meetings a week face to face, me and Alice, and we spend an hour with each other going over things we've already talked about, going over where we are, feeding back, and then we've also got the conversations with you, with Rob from Financial Promotions, and then it's also, because she's doing the analytical stuff on the, whether it be the website, the system, she's forced to be able to feed back to me on other areas that she's got to keep control on, whether it be the hello inbox that is constantly full, say 500 emails a day on a rotation. Then we've got the new inquiries, and then also booking in new customers. She's got a good feel of where the company's busy, whilst also dealing with Laura, who's really in the thick of it with all her files and piles of paperwork, to be able to go back to the customer and just help them out. When the advisors need another chat with the customer because something's changed, she can get that out. So like she kind of like runs around, like floats about and does bits and bobs, but then may come back to me and go, I've got an idea for marketing. She sent me something yesterday we've got to look at tomorrow, and it's just on what people, the real people are out there asking questions about mortgages from Google, and if they're 800% up asking when a rate's going to drop, someone should be answering that. The answer's fuck knows, just to finish the podcast. But when they do, then
Come full circle.
when they do, we'll be set because our system and our conveyor belt is well oiled, ready to take on absolutely everybody. But at the moment, we're really tightening the bridges and getting everything, all those nooks and crannies, all of them just perfectly MOT'd so that we're ready to go. And I think this little quiet period we're going through in terms of the property market, it's allowing us to be all over the social media and putting us out there, which without these conversations, you don't get to know who you're dealing with. We're not going to be for everybody. You might have listened to this and turned it off 5 minutes ago. But you're thinking, you know what, these guys are good, or they're not on my street, I'm going to stick with my bank. And if that's it, then brilliant. That helps us, and we won't work for everybody. But the ones that we do, we hope that we're kind of up there. Hence the recommendations, the 5-star reviews we get.
Check them out. Right, I think we'll wrap it up then.
Nice one. Cool.
Good.
Catch us all next week.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in. Subscribe, follow, whatever you do. Leave your comments. More importantly, give us your feedback. Let us know the myths that you'd like us to talk about. But let us know what you'd like us to change about the format. Any guests you want us to get on there, we'll go. We'll aim for it. You want them on here. We'll try and get Rishi on. We'll have a chat. Martin Lewis, the lot. One day, you never know. This could be episode 2 of 500, and by then, you never know where we start. So thanks for listening. Thanks for your time. Catch you soon.